Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Fighter Heart podcast. Today, we're sitting here with Brianna. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me tonight.
Oh yeah, definitely. We're honored to have you. We like to get into it right away here. So, if you have just a little background about who you are, where you're from, some upbringing, facts. But after that, get right into your Fighter Heart story, and we can take it from there.
Absolutely. So my name's Brianna. I grew up in the Wisconsin area. I was actually born in California, but my mom, she kind of suffered with a little bit of addiction issues. And so to kind of get herself completely out of that environment, she uprooted us to give us a better chance at having a better future. So we relocated to Wisconsin. That's where I did the bulk of my upbringing and young adulthood. Um, I love the Midwest. I love being part of that like Midwest culture. The wintry snows were really fun up until, life changed for me. But yeah, my mom was a single mom. I worked as soon as I could, and I just really tried to always find a way to help people. Even throughout like middle school and high school, I was either trying to like get involved with my family or get involved with like high school stuff or even just like volunteering on my free time. And so that's always been something that has always kind of been inside me is this like natural caregiver or just like really excited to help other people. But then in 2011 is really when my life kind of turned, changed, and my path definitely led me on its own path that I wasn't expecting.
Well, what happened? What happened in 2011?
So 2011, I was 20 years old. I was about 1 month shy of my 21st birthday, and I'd had a fake ID for 2 years already. So I'd been in the bars drinking since I was 18. By then, you break the rules long enough, you kind of think you're invincible. And so as I mentioned, 2 years of being in and out of the bar with my fake ID, I didn't think that I could get in any kind of trouble. And one night I was drinking and driving, technically under the legal limit, but because I was 20, it still didn't matter. So I'd
Yeah.
only had a few drinks, but I still made the wrong choices, drove too fast, lost control of my car, and ended up paralyzed from the waist down. And
Wow.
so for the last 14 years, I have been navigating life from a wheelchair, which has been something I never anticipated. And most people kind of look at that and they're like, oh, I feel so bad. Like, that's what an awful way to live. I'm so sorry. And you always get these like pity pats and things. But I love telling people that, like, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. Like, God knew exactly what He was doing that day when He changed my life. Of course, I have hard days. Of course, there's most of the days aren't easy. And sometimes I really just struggle with the wheelchair. But overall, my wheelchair saved my life.
Wow, it's incredible. So it was like 15 years ago, you said, right? 14
hmm
years ago, I would guess. Yeah.
hmm
Had you said you were drinking and driving. Is that something you did before, or was that the first time?
Oh no. It's very common, I think, and was at least where I grew up and with the people that I was around, drinking and driving just seemed super normal. I mean, you saw parents doing it, you saw the kids older than you doing it, and then eventually it just felt as a rite of passage that like you just get good enough at trying to figure it out. Um,
Wow.
and it's not something that I brag about, and it's not something that I'm proud of. And this is why I talk about it, is so that I can let other people know that, hey, no one's invincible. There has been plenty of nights where I didn't even know how I got home, and it's a miracle that I didn't hurt myself then or hurt somebody else. Um, and I'm honestly really blessed that with my car accident that I didn't hit anyone else. When I lost control of the car, it went into the ditch. The only person that was injured was me. I can't imagine the weight of something different if something
Yeah.
more serious had happened if someone else was on the road that night.
Excuse me. Did you have any feeling or inkling inside you like maybe I shouldn't drive tonight? Do you remember? No, it just felt like every other time.
Yeah, yeah, I just had a couple sips. At the bar. My girlfriend was 18, and in Wisconsin, you can be a bartender at 18. It's totally legal. And so I went to see her at work, had some drinks, played some pool, had some pizza. I was on my way home to do some dishes before work the next day, and I just got a little reckless behind the wheel. Drove a
Yeah.
little too fast on roads I didn't know, and that's all it took was just one wrong move.
Did you lose consciousness? Like, did you wake up in the hospital? Do you remember any of it?
Yeah, so I remember I decided to top the governor out on my little Chevy Cavalier. And so I floored it, And if you're not familiar with what a governor just kind of stops your car at 100 miles an hour, makes sure you can't go a certain speed. So I got my car going as fast as it would. It shut down, it starts coasting down, but I started going around this really sharp corner with some gravel on it, and I lost control. My tires blew out. I shot to the ditch. Um, and honestly, the first thing I thought of is, oh shoot, I'm gonna hit this ditch. I can't miss out on work. Like I have a job. I have to be responsible. Um, I don't remember the actual impact, but I did wake up shortly after. I was outside of the car, and there was a gentleman who had called in already and was like, "Hey, I'm calling to get you some help." I was in such rough condition when the ambulance got to me that they decided to go down about a mile down the road, and I was life flighted from a cornfield to the next biggest hospital that they could find.
Wow. So you did you have your seatbelt on?
Yes. Yes. So
Okay.
during my accident, I had my seatbelt on, but my airbag did not go off. So the impact of that, that's actually right where my back broke, is where the lap band of the seatbelt was holding me in, is where I'm paralyzed from.
Wow.
But
So
if
if
it
the
wasn't,
airbag went off, it would have helped.
yeah, well, yeah, the airbag would have went off, it would have helped for sure. But if I wouldn't have had my seatbelt on, I probably would have been ejected. So
Yeah,
I'm
you
glad
would have just
that I
went
at
through the
least,
windshield, right? Yeah.
yeah. So who knows? It could have been even worse.
Good thing you had it on. Yeah.
Mhm.
Jeez. All right. So you wake up in no, you woke up there. Were you like airlifted to a hospital? Is that what you said?
Yeah, yeah. So I was in pretty rough shape when they found me. I had a cut from my forehead back into my hairline, and then obviously I wasn't able to move, and so they got me stable into the ambulance. I think I went down a mile or so down the road, and then that's where the helicopter met us. And that's kind of, I think that's when they started giving me medication for the pain and things like that, because that's where it gets a little hazy. And I just remember it being really dark and the sound of the helicopter just whoop, 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 whoop. And then the next thing I remember is being in the ER at a hospital. It's about an hour away from my hometown. And they told me where I was and what was happening. And I'm not sure how people found out about it so quickly, but that's, small town
Mm.
scanner life when all the mom and pops have those scanners at home. Somehow my girlfriend who was working at the bar that I was at that night, she found out and she was the first person to see me in the ER. My brother lived in the town that the hospital was in. He was the second person. And so from the very minute I was injured, I had like support right there, which was kind of great. But right from that first night, I pretty much had lost sensation from my belly button down pretty much immediately. By the time I was at the hospital, they had done some testing, some sensation testings, which is pretty much just a pinprick test. And I had no sensations below my belly button by then already.
And do they have to do like a surgery or anything? Uh,
Yeah, so what had happened is I broke my back, and I nicked my spinal cord, which is how I lost the ability to walk. And so they had to do surgery on my back. I had also broken my leg, so they had to do surgery on my leg. And by the grace of God, even though I have a scar from here all the way back, I didn't end up with a bad concussion or a brain injury. But I did have two surgeries within the first week of my initial injury.
And after you initially wake up in the hospital, do the doctors tell you anything like you're not going to walk anymore or anything like that?
No, I went to a very small, like the hospital that I went to was great and they did the best they can with what they had, but it wasn't a spinal cord injury specific and it wasn't a major trauma center. And so for me, they weren't even sure what was going to happen. And so they didn't tell. I was almost a week away from going home before I rolled into a conversation that the doctor was having with my mom. And I heard my mom say, well, hi, why haven't you told her yet? And I come in and I'm like, told me what? And then the doctors pretty much were just kind of looking at each other and they essentially were like, well, we don't think you're ever going to walk again.
Mm.
We're not rehabbing you to walk. We're rehabbing you to be paralyzed and wheelchair bound forever.
S-
And so
So
I was
what went through your head when they told you that?
um I got really lucky in life that I have a pretty positive like outlook on things. I guess you can consider me a half glass full kind of person. Nothing that I really asked for, but I accepted it pretty quickly. A lot of people in my situation when they gain a spinal cord injury, they always like want to continue rehab and like how can I walk or like, what's the new science? Like what kind of walking braces can I use or what kind of machinery can I use to get upright? And they want to spend all of this energy on walking again. And don't get me wrong, I still had the idea that it could be possible right off the bat, but I come from a poor single mom. Like I don't have all the money in the world. I knew that my options were going to be limited. And so I kind of accepted it. I'm like, all right, so I'm going to have to figure out how to be really cool in a wheelchair. I'm just going to have to figure out how to live in a wheelchair. Maybe I'll live with my mom forever. Maybe someone will love me. We'll figure it out. And that's kind of what it was like. Um,
So you're an optimist.
yeah, I was an optimist. And so for the next 5 or 6 years, I just kind of took the time to figure it out. Took a few
Mhm.
years off of work, took a few years off of school, partied a lot, and then eventually figured out what my passion was and dove into that. And ever since then, I've just kind of continued to help people with my story and hope that I can A, prevent someone from making my same mistake, but B, if you are in a situation like mine, like how to be independent.
Yeah.
The one thing I mentioned earlier is that I like sharing my stories because mine's different than everyone else's. Because my hospital was a lot smaller and because I didn't have access to a good therapist who had experiences with people with spinal cord injuries, I didn't have a lot of good tools. I used a sliding board to get in and out of cars and in and out of bed. If I would fall on the ground, I would have to call someone to get me up. I lived a very shelter type of life for like 10 years. I was still very independent, lived on my own, worked full time, went to school, but I still didn't drive. There's still certain things that I saw other wheelchair users on the internet doing that I wasn't doing yet.
Hmm.
Um, but I finally, during COVID, I leaned into the community, found some wheelie friends online, and they were like, Bree, I'm paralyzed from my chest down, and I can get myself off the floor. You have all of that core muscle that I don't have. They're like, you can do it. And
Hmm.
it took someone in a wheelchair to finally be like, nah, girl, you got this. You just need to try. You just gotta
Yeah.
try. And so it's only been the last 4 or 5 years that I've really grown my independence, learned how to live independently, gotten off of disability, and done all the things that people did right off the bat. And I like sharing that because I want other people to know, like, hey, it's never too late. Whether you're newly injured 6 months out, whether you've been injured for 24 years and you're just now like me who just wanted to find the community later on, it's always the right time. There's
Yeah.
never a wrong time to improve your life and give yourself a chance at something more.
No, that's awesome. So before we get into what you're doing now, I kind of want to rewind a little and
Hmm.
go to the rehab process. So
Hmm.
can you kind of walk us through what that was like and how long until you were, I guess, independent?
Well, with my hospital stay, like I mentioned, it wasn't spinal cord injury specific. And with my insurance that I had, I was covered for 21 days. So I had 21 days from the moment I had crashed my car to the time I got sent home to figure out how to live with a spinal cord injury, to learn how to manage bowels and bladder that don't work the right way anymore, how to move your body around that doesn't work the right way anymore, how to deal with all the mental changes. And it was a lot. And so, like I said, the hospital gave me the best tools that I could. I learned a lot in 21 days, but I still had so much more I had to learn. And this is something that we actually just shared in my empowerment sessions with the nonprofit, is that your rehab journey is always going to be different throughout your life. Like you can do inpatient therapy, follow up with outpatient therapy, but I stopped doing outpatient therapy like 2 months after my injury because I didn't know that I needed to keep going. So I went 10 years without doing any kind of therapy. And then I finally was like, you know what? I want to learn to get myself off the floor. Or you know what? I should probably be able to wheelie off a curb just in case I go to some place that doesn't have that kind of stuff. And it was finally me who said, I need to go back and learn this kind of stuff. And so rehab can fit in wherever those goals may be. So for me personally, I had a very short amount of rehab right in the beginning. And then 10 years later, I advocated for myself with my medical team to be like, hey, these are some things I think are important to do before I move out and be on my own and like move out of state. And they supported that. And so that's what that looked like then. And
Were
then
they things
now,
that the team already suggested to you and you said no, or like did they not think of this before?
the second one, yeah. So when you're inpatient, you only get to focus on so much. And then when they sent me home for outpatient, they didn't work on what we like to call wheel skills. They just really just PT'd my shoulder. Once my shoulder was PT'd, they didn't do any follow-up. So I was told that I was going to be able to do a floor transfer. I was told I was going to be able to do these things. It just never came up. And I had managed with a sliding board and with family and friends who could be there in case something happened, that I just never felt the value of going back until 2022 when I was starting to get ready to move from Wisconsin to North Carolina. That's when I was like, wow, my mom's not going to be here. My friends aren't going to be here. My roommate's going to be a wheelchair user. If I fall on the floor, there's no way she's going to be able to help get me up. So it was that year that I was like, okay, for me to really be successful with this move, I have to go back and I have to learn these things. So I learned how to transfer without the board. I learned how to get in and out of the car. I learned how to take my own wheelchair apart so that I could do that myself. And then after I moved in with my best friend Jessie, she taught me all the other stuff, right? Like, right living experience. She's like, all right, well, we're going to go on a trip and you're going to hop down these curbs until you figure it out. And that's kind of how I learned the last 3 years is I just had wheel friends that are like, we're gonna go out into the world and do real world practice. Yes, you're gonna fall. Yes, it's gonna be scary. Yes, you might cry because I'm a big emotional. And so you're probably gonna cry a little bit, but we're gonna figure it out and we're gonna get it done. Because if you want the life that you want, you have to.
Wow, so that was only 3 years ago.
hmm
So
Yeah, so
you,
I've only been independent, um, living away like over I had an hour away from my mom in Wisconsin, but now I have 16 hours in between us. But yeah, so this the last 3 years has been the most independent I have been in the last 14.
so you started off just jumping off curbs basically, like and falling, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, it started off with me falling on a trail in Tennessee. Her and I were hiking, and a root took me out, and because I couldn't
Yeah.
wheelie over a root, and she's like, "That root's gonna take you out." And we laughed the whole time. I knew it was gonna happen. Wiped out of my chair. We laughed about it. Got the whole thing on video.
Did you
Got
have
me
like
back.
elbow pads and like a helmet? I'm picturing like a little kid with
Oh
like their
no.
first bike ride. Like,
Gosh, no. This is just two independently stubborn girls in the middle of the woods on a sunny Tuesday road tripping home from St. Louis. It was so random.
that's so funny.
We find this trail that says green, and green means like easy, but then we start going down this trail and we are like, Jesse, green means easy for people with working legs.
Yeah.
Like it's not easy for wheelchair users. But it was a fun adventure, and we like I said, we have good laughs about it, and that showed me the importance of why this stuff is is essential. And so that was the
Mhm.
summer that I learned how to wheelie, and then she taught me how to wheelie off a curb, and which was great because then a month or like a year later, her and I were in the Bahamas where there is zero accessibility, where you'll be on the sidewalk and the sidewalk will just stop out of nowhere. And you have to be able to bop up and down a curb.
Yeah.
And so she taught me essential skills that I still use today, even when I'm traveling around America, because even there's places here that aren't even that accessible still.
Yeah, I'm in New York. There's curbs all over the place that don't have any decline at all. So
hmm
you just have to just yeah, jump off them, I guess.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about what you're doing now. So you mentioned a nonprofit.
Correct. So, the nonprofit is what kind of the adventure that sparked me to move. So I met Jesse online in 2021 when I was still finishing my senior year of college. My educational background is human services, social work, and criminal justice. And so she's like, "Well, do you want to run this nonprofit?" I had been coming to all of its events and I had been getting really involved with the community. And I was like, yeah, I definitely want to get involved with Wheel with Me. Absolutely. And so I started running Wheel with Me remotely from Wisconsin my senior year of college in 2021. And by the time I graduated in 2022, Jesse and I had a plan of uprooting me from Wisconsin to North Carolina so that her and I could run the nonprofit, get that all up and going. We launched a fitness app for wheelchair users, which I have since backed away from, and now her and Nikki Walsh at AppFit take care of that. So we created a fitness app for wheelchair users by wheelchair users. And then she got me into consulting. I told you one of my big goals was to get off of government assistance. A lot of people like me who get disability income live off of somewhere between 800 and maybe $1,200 a month for everything.
Nothing. Yeah, that's
It's
nothing.
nothing. And especially if people want to like live in New York, can you imagine that?
No,
Oh,
you
goodness.
wouldn't be able to.
You wouldn't be able to. That's right. And
No.
so I wanted to give me a little piece of independence back by going back to work full time. And so Jesse introduced me to consulting. So I consulted for a couple of years while I ran Wheel With Me Foundation. And now I am a full-time product application specialist for a transportation company that sells wheelchair securements. So if you've ever seen one of those shuttle buses where they use the hooks to strap the wheelchair user in,
Hmm.
we sell those hooks. And so now it's really great to be able to take a new industry and be able to take that information and still share that with my community and still help them be independent and still help them grow. It's not necessarily nonprofit work, but hey, I'm now teaching wheelchair users how to be safe on the road and how to properly maintenance their cars, which is huge and still part of my mission with my nonprofit. And so, yeah, that's what I do. I run my nonprofit on my free time and I work full time. And when I'm not working, I have a little hobby garden and a couple animals to keep me busy here at home.
What do you have? Some dogs or cats?
Um, yes, we have two dogs and 10 rescue cats.
10. Oh, wow. We
Yes.
have two rescue cats, but I couldn't imagine 10.
Oh, well, I have to just be honest, the 10 cats are my landlords. My basement apartment is attached to the main house, so I just am blessed to be able to visit them. I'm the fill-in auntie, but yes, we have 10 cats here. They're all rescues, all beautiful. And actually both the dogs are rescues too. So the husky was actually found tied up to a tree with a broken leg, and we took him in last November.
Oh, that's amazing. How old is he?
He turned 1 in June.
Ah, he's a
Just
baby.
He's a babe. He's just a babe. Yep. So he is
Uh,
just in his little teens. And then our other dog is a part Jack Russell Terrier little Chihuahua. He's 10.
oh, wow.
And they just love running around the yard together. It's adorable.
Yeah,
So
it's a full house over there.
yeah. So I mean, you can see throughout my whole story, it's always about helping people, taking care of people, taking care of things, giving back my time. If I ever, step away from the disability scene, I would love to get back into food insecurity. That's what got me into human services in college was like working with food banks and helping people find access to food. And so that's something I'll always be passionate about as well, is to making sure people can always access some yummy, healthy food. And so, whatever it is, people just got to find what they're passionate about and just turn that into their, you know, their day-to-day thing. Because once you do that, like life just kind of breezes on by.
Yeah, you're doing some good work there, Bree. Very
Thank
cool.
you. Thank you, Joe.
So before we wrap up, I want to ask a couple more questions. So, number one, how'd your mind state change, if it did at all, from before and after your accident? Like the way you look at life?
The biggest change was not living inside of barriers or like what society says is possible. Even before my injury, I was like, man, I'm a child of a single mom. We live in poverty. I can only grow so much. I can only become so much. And then after I was injured, I was like, okay, well, now I'm injured. And society says that I can only be this big of a person and achieve this much of things. And it really was my community that showed me that just like any other person in the world, disabled or not, like limits are endless. And it is mindset. It's about believing in yourself to the point where you just go all in. And that's kind of what my wheelchair did. It left me no other choice but to fully embrace who I am, love myself for who I am in this chair, and then go all in on that. And I think once I did have that mindset shift change, the little pieces kind of fell into place and there wasn't so much tension. Now, I'm
Mm.
not going to say every day is perfect and I still struggle just like every other human, um but like I said, once you align yourself with who you are on the inside and like turn that into your mission in life, it just feels so natural.
It's so easy, right? It becomes
Correct.
easier. Yeah, cool.
Hmm.
Now, finally, we always like to ask some advice that you would give to yourself or someone that went through something similar. If you could hear anything or something you've learned now that you would tell your past self. I kind of think I know the answer, but
Well,
yeah.
there's two things. So, for me, before getting in the car, you are not invincible. To anyone out there who thinks that they can just party and behave recklessly and there's no consequences, I promise eventually there will be a consequence. So, try to make better decisions. Uber and Lyft are around now. That wasn't a thing when I was a kid. Take advantage. All right. And then the second thing that I would share is that I am worthy and that I am capable. For 10 years, I lived small, thinking that I wasn't going to be able to do things or good enough or strong enough or able enough, I guess. But I wish I would have told me right that day in the hospital, like, girl, you have the opportunity to do some really cool stuff. Don't waste it. Because I had 10 years that I could have done even more. But I know this was the journey I was meant to be, so I could share it with others that are similar to me.
Amazing. Thank you, Brianna. Thank you so much for taking the time.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was wonderful.
Everyone else, thank you again for listening to another Fighter Heart podcast. We will see you again next week.